Welcome to Life in Business, the podcast for business owners who want the confidence to grow without having to hustle 24/7. I'm Libby Langley, your host, award-winning no BS business coach and Amazon best-selling author. Join me each week to learn simple and practical strategies for growing your business, growing your profits, growing your confidence, and for having fun in business too. Here's this week's episode. Hello, Libby Langley here with another episode of Life in Business. And today we are talking about how to escape the perfectionism trap. Because who wants to be perfect anyway? I don't know. I reckon it would just be really boring, wouldn't it? To always just everything be absolutely right. I don't know. Maybe not. I'll never know. But anyway, we're not going to strive for perfectionism, for perfect, right? We are going to better understand perfectionism and the kind of cost, the net negative impact that it has, striving for perfection has on you and your business. That's what we're going to talk about today, and kind of some ways that you can some strategies to kind of let go of it, and ways that you can be a darn sight more compassionate with yourself, right? Good. Okay, here we go. So, perfectionism. What's the difference between perfectionism and high standards, right? Well, I mean, really, quite simply, one is like quality focused, looking for quality, wanting quality. And the other one is utterly becoming paralyzed by the pursuit of perfect. I mean, I don't know what, the perfect is like. It just sounds really hard work. And I am never, ever, ever going to achieve perfect in anything that I do, I don't think. And I don't say that to be self-critical or anything. It's just, I've been around the block a bit, right? Nothing I've ever done so far has been perfect, and everything's worked out fine. So, and I'm kind of cool with that. But I think if someone was, Mary Poppins, practically perfect in every way, then that would be really intimidating, and they would be very Stepford wives, wouldn't it be? Very Stepford wives, kind of robotic. And mind you, I mean, even ChatGPT comes with a disclaimer to say, ChatGPT can make mistakes, right? So even ChatGPT, even the robots aren't perfect. And I think that's all right. I think that's probably better, that none of us is perfect. But striving for quality, right? Wanting to be things to be of a high standard. Great, of course, absolutely. I really kind of pride myself on the level of service. Not we go above and beyond because but the level of service that I give my clients. Every single person in my Confidence to Grow program will say that I take time to know them, to support them individually, to give them the space that they need, right, for whatever they need. And that's kind of something that I really pride myself on. And I would say that's a striving for quality there. But it's not perfect, because I think to have something that's perfect requires me to also be perfect. And yet everything that I support people with, the fact that I'm able to support people with those things, is because I've had an absolutely imperfect life and journey. You can't support people, I don't think, unless you understand what the other end of the scale is like. And so to be able to have, if you've been through pain, you can help people with pain management, right? Do you understand what I mean? I think it gives you another level. And obviously you're trained in these things and you can learn these things for sure. But to have lived experience, I think it's great. I think it allows a level of empathy that's quite important. And that requires us to have not been perfect, right? I openly share some of the mega cock-ups I've made along the way in my business, and things that were perfect but didn't make me happy, therefore weren't perfect, perfect on paper. And all of that adds a layer and a level and something that people can engage with. Because if you started your business and your first month did 10K and with a nice, healthy 70% profit margin, and you never had a client complain, and you never had any issues getting payment or with tech, or you immediately got booked for big high-end speaking gigs and, bought your first private jet after 18 months, it's like, not sure how that's kind of you're going to resonate with the the masses, the general experience of running a business. Do you see what I mean? Not to say that that is perfect, what I've just described. However, that is probably society's perception of perfect way, perfection in business, right? So we're all on our own paths. We're all having our own journeys. We're all making our own mistakes, big and small, along the way. And that's great. But being be kind of striving for quality and wanting to be really good and deliver a really good service is good, right? I think that that's good, and I think that everybody would agree that that's good. But becoming paralyzed by this kind of pursuit of perfectionism is that we can kiss goodbye to that, right? Because what's going to happen is if you do that, you're going to procrastinate and probably never do anything because it'll never be good enough, right? You're going to over edit everything or use bloody filters all the time on Instagram and stuff and just become a version of you that isn't you. It's the perfect version, right? Which is just, yeah. And you're never going to feel ready to kind of like launch something or tell people about what you do or share because it's never going to be perfect. But it's never going to be perfect. And that's fine. It just never is. Everything is going to need to tinker with, right? And a tweak along the way. Absolutely. But the over editing thing is, I've been talking about this for years, right? And you listen to my podcast, you know how I talk, and there's ums and ahs and all sorts in there. And sometimes I can't remember the name of the thing that I'm trying to tell you about. And I had a call with a really well-renowned podcast guy, producer, tons of experience, really high end in his field. And he said to me, I'll give you a bit of feedback. He said, the episode I listened to, he said, you were talking about something. And he said, and you couldn't remember the name of the book. I think that's what it was. Obviously, I can't remember. I can't remember the proper anecdote. But I think he said something like, I couldn't remember the name of the book. And he said, I would have edited that out because people could have taken from that, you can't remember the name of the book. Therefore, what, how kind of credible are you? And I'm like, no, man, don't tell a perimenopausal woman anything like that, because none of us can ever even remember the end of our blooming sentences. and to me that, it's kind of quite a strategic thing, right? And I really strongly believe that like this podcast, and you see me speaking on stage, or perhaps going live or being interviewed on a podcast or something like that, I will always be an unedited version because I am an unedited version, right? If you meet me and we have a conversation, it's going to be exactly the same as you've got to know here. And for me, that's really, really important because in person, I cannot be perfect, right? So why kind of make this perfect? Yeah. I mean, if it's an utter shambles, right, and I completely forget what I'm talking about, then I would probably start again or get it edited out. But honestly, I think there's one occasion I can think of, and what is this, episode 107? There's one occasion where I've had to say to my podcast editor, look, I just absolutely forgot what I was talking about here. Can you just cut out that 30 seconds of me going, what the fuck, in the middle of that? So, it happens sometimes, and there is time for that. But yeah, just be who you are because that's who you are. I don't think we need to like airbrush our lives because that's not what people buy from us. And that's so important, right? Because what you're doing if you don't do that, I mean, you can learn to be better, right? We can all learn to be better. We can all learn to be more concise or more purpose-led. We can learn all of those things. But if you spend so much time kind of trying to be perfect and over editing yourself, you're wasting so much time or energy that can go towards actually moving you forward in your business. And also it puts a massive strain on your mental health, which is just going to lead to burnout or a lack of satisfaction in what you're doing. And that sucks, right? You've got to enjoy the journey as well. You've got to just enjoy being you. Yeah. Because that's what you're putting out there. So that's the stuff that, the stuff that matters. I really do believe that. And I guess a lot of it is, it's these kind of expectations from society, the 10K months are everything. You need the Lamborghini. And it's just like, no, you don't. Not if you don't want that. Who cares? Kind of past experiences as well. If you've had someone say things to you about not being good enough, about being a disappointment, family member, I'm talking to you, then that does linger with you, right? And inside you do kind of have that, well, if I'm a disappointment anyway, so what's the point in bothering, right? That can continue. But if you can kind of change the way of thinking of that, going, yeah, well, they think I'm a disappointment and that's fine, but I'm loving my life and I'm happy to be me, It's a different way of reframing it, which I think is much healthier, right? So your past experiences are kind of part of this. Your comparison to others, the perfection on social media that we all see, all that stuff, right? There's no wonder that people feel they need to be more perfect, right? But honestly, I say to my clients in my Confidence to Grow program that most of the time, the stuff that we put out, most people don't care, right? Not really in the grand scheme of things. A lot of social media content is seen on a scroll. There's a quick like. They might make a comment if something catches, and that's all fine, right? That's kind of like that's the way it is, and that's the way we all are. And we all behave, but our worth is not defined by that, right? It's the sum of 100 different interactions when we get to work with the clients and we get to give everything to it, right? So this kind of fear of judgment or rejection or not being good enough that often drives the perfectionism, right? Or the quest for perfectionism. It's being based on something that isn't reality, because nobody is going to change the world or have their world changed by one single social media post, right? It's really unlikely. It's going to be part of a bigger journey. And so as long as you're consistent in the journey and you believe in the journey that you're on, people are going to come along with you. I just think that that's so important to remember, right? And also, just block the people who you think, oh, they're really perfect, they got it all sorted. Yeah, just block them and move on. It doesn't matter, right? Because they're probably filtered, like the Instagram versus reality kind of things that you see. I mean, they're quite funny, right? But it's true. And keep a sense of humor about everything. It's a much better way of approaching things. And also, embrace good enough, right? Done is better than perfect. You've heard that saying? And it's not to say that everything should be half-assed and just a bit shitty. Not saying that at all. But, good enough is fine, right? Done is better than perfect, absolutely. Because if you're trying to perfect that Canva graphic, well, nobody's going to know what it is that you do or how they can buy from you or how they can help you, right? But if you just put it out there or just scrap the Canva graphic that's been taking you forever and just stick a picture of, a nice country view that goes with the point of what you're trying to say, right? You don't even have to be in it. You've done it, yeah? It's getting the message out there that matters, not how perfect it is. Absolutely 100% fact that. And there is the 80-20 rule, right? The Pareto principle. I first learned about this when I did my first management qualification, my certificate in management studies. When was that? Ages ago. Anyway, when I had a proper job. But the Pareto principle is that kind of 80% of the results of something come from the first 20% of effort. The 80-20 rule, right? You've heard of the 80-20 rule, but what it is 20% of effort is going to probably bring you as much result as 100% of effort. Yeah. Because you put so much into that first bit and the next is often. The remaining 80% is often diminishing returns, right? So just think about that initial effort. And then each time you can make kind of initial effort rather than, flogging a dead horse. Do you understand what I mean when I say that? It's like the trying and the starting and then the continuing is far better than the starting, perfecting. Yeah. You've got to move on to the next stage or it's it's a waste of time. So one thing that you could do is practicing putting stuff out or giving it a go, putting stuff out there that's good enough and see what happens, right? And I bet you if you put out 5 good enough social media posts or blog posts or emails to your list, you will have a better result than if you do one perfect one, right? I bet you. Because it's a volume thing. So a volume thing does make a difference, right? But I betcha. So try it for a month and see what happens. And then you can look at actual kind of data rather than anecdotal data. But I think once you get into the habit of that, you will find that nobody died and nothing bad happened, right? And you will feel more comfortable and confident in yourself because you will have done some stuff. You will have done 10 times as much stuff. Yeah. And that's what's important, right? It's about engaging and connecting with the people that we want to engage and connect with. But if we never put anything out there or we never take part in conversations, how is anybody ever going to know what we're doing? Yeah? And all we want is for people to know what we're doing so that they think we're fantastic, so that they want to work with us, right? That's the shortcut to what a business is. Yeah. We want to be able to help the people, but in order to be able to help the people, they need to know we exist and they need to give us some money so we can help them, right? It's as simple as that. And that's kind of quite liberating to think, oh yeah, this is my part in this. This is what I have to do in order to be able to help these people. So yeah, I guess it's kind of like letting your barriers down a little bit, being a little bit more vulnerable. I'm not talking about sharing your absolute heart and everything with people necessarily. Kind of if you want, but you don't need to overshare necessarily. It's just about allowing people letting people in, right? Allowing people to know who you are and what you stand for. And this is another reason why in my Confidence to Grow program, we spend a lot of time working on the business foundations. So, which is things like your vision, what you really want from life and from your business, what your mission is, what drives you, what your purpose is, what you really believe in, what you really stand for. And the reason we spend so much time thinking about and looking at that is because it's something that's always missed in businesses, right? Always. Business, nobody told me that when I first started my business. And if they had, and they'd helped me do the exercises that I help my clients with, oh my God, my business would have been way better for me. I would have been way happier from day one, right? So it's so important there. So if you practice this stuff and you look inside yourself and think about what really matters to you, then that passion and that drive is what's going to come across. And it might be scrappier, right? But it's said with much more authenticity and much more drive and focus. And people can see that you really care about that. And that is what's going to come through rather than, ooh, that's a really perfect Canva graphic. You see what I mean? It's way bigger than that, right? And perfectionism actually stunts you. I think chasing perfectionism actually stunts you because you are putting measures in place and barriers in place and blocks in place that just don't need to exist. They just don't. It's so liberating to just show up as you are, and that's the end of it. And here I am. This is what I believe in. Yeah. And I hope that I can be I can kind of be an example to you about that. I'm just not perfect. I'm never going to be. And I've long since given up trying. And it is really good. Like the suited and booted world that I was in, that really mattered. That kind of image thing really mattered. But when I gave up wearing heels, my life changed. My life changed. And it's, even going to I don't know, like a Christmas do or something. And it's like, yeah, do you know, no, I'm just going to wear my trainers with my outfit because I will be far more comfortable. And that kind of, it's not perfect, right? There is it, because you've got to be fancy. But you can be fancy. You can be fancy in trainers. And that eh, what's perfect for you, I think, is maybe a healthier way of framing all this, right? Because perfectionism doesn't exist. Otherwise, we would all be Stepford wives, right? We would all be identikit people. We would all be Barbies. There would be no individuality and no interest in the world would be really dull because everybody would be the same. So it's what makes life rich, and it's what makes business rich and interesting, by there being so many different people with so many different needs, and it's just so multifaceted. And I think that that's an absolute real joy about life and about the world. So yeah, there you go. Thanks for coming to today's TED Talk. Okay, so to give you a few more strategies then, if you set yourself some realistic milestones and break things down, right, rather than I need to I need to have a really fantastic email list and get loads of clients from it. Yes, but first of all, you need to create a page where people can give you their email address, and then you need to tell people about it, and one person will give you their email address, and then you need to lavish them with loads of love and support until there's 2 people, and then 3 people. And then gradually that builds, right? So it's about setting yourself kind of smaller achievable goals to know that you've achieved something, rather than I need to do everything at once, because you're not going to get 10,000 people on an email list tomorrow. It just isn't going to happen. Yeah. So break things down, and that will really help you. And when you make mistakes, because you will, because we all do, either just kind of laugh and move on, or see why they happened, how you can do things differently next time, and kind of learn from them, right? But never, ever, 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 ever beat yourself up for any of this, because the most successful people got there by trying, failing, and adjusting, not by being perfect, right? Take me as a case in point. So, how can we build self-compassion and confidence, rather than beating ourselves up for not being perfect? So celebrate your wins, right? Teeny tiny wins are teeny tiny wins. They deserve to be celebrated. Yes? I mean, maybe don't crack open a bottle of champagne for every teeny tiny win, but certainly acknowledge it, note it, go, yay me. Maybe write it on a Post-it note and stick it on your wall. And then, by the end of the week, you'll be like, bloody hell, look at all those little wins I've had. That's a lot. And that's really good to be able to build momentum and kind of reinforce what progress actually is and what progress you're making. But I think kind of writing these things down and acknowledging them is really nice, and make sure that you're in a space where you can share this stuff. So, my clients always we share things on our calls, we share things in our WhatsApp group, the big wins and the little wins, and the moving forward of everything, right? And the mistakes that we're kind of learning from. So find yourself a space, a community, an accountability partner who celebrates you, not in a toxic positivity way, but in a, yeah, do you know what? You've done good, because that reinforces it for you. And that's really, really helpful, right? And surround yourself with people who really value what you do and who are supporting you on your journey, and who are reminding you that done is indeed better than perfect. And so then when the inner critic kicks in, which it will, just kind of pause to listen to what it's saying, and like question its validity, right? Is what your inner critic saying, is there a valid point that you can take from that and do things slightly differently? Or is it just horrible old conditioning or limited beliefs or your mother talking, What is it? And what is the actual truth, right? Because we all have plenty of actual truth that we done good. Yeah. We have client testimonials. We still have a roof over our heads, which means there's money coming in, which means people trust and value us enough in order to pay us for our services. We have happy, healthy families. We have food in the cupboard. All these things, right? That prove that we ain't done bad along the way. And I think that that's really important to keep things in perspective, right? Because you might not yet have 10K months and you might not yet have a Lamborghini in the drive, but think about what you really, really want. Think about your business foundations and your vision and how you want your life and business to be. And it probably doesn't, may not include either of those, right? So that's what you need to keep coming back to. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. It's how you feel and what you want that is really so important. And learn from it all. This is a journey, right? We're never going to be perfect. Where we want to go will change and flex and develop over the years. And that's all cool. That's what it's all part of. As long as you're happy, as long as you're being constructive, as long as you're working with the people that you want to work with, and as long as you're helping them in a positive way, and as long as you're bringing in the money that you want to bring in, or you're on the way to bringing in the money that you want to bring in, that's a win, right? And that is what matters. And is it perfect? I doubt it. But is it good? Does it make you happy? Yes. And that is what I want for you. And that is what I am celebrating for you. So there we go. That's how you escape the perfectionism trap. So good work today. Thank you for joining me as ever. And I'll see you next week. Lots of love. Bye. Bye. Thank you for listening to Life in Business. Please make sure that you subscribe or follow so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you enjoyed today's show, please leave a review, as it helps others to find the podcast and spread the word that there's an easier way to do business. If you want to chat with me about today's episode or suggest a topic for the future, I would love to hear from you. You can find me on Instagram @Libby Langley. See you next week.